Hello everyone, this is the Lamp again. I realized in my last video I mentioned something about personal responsibility and basically I didn't actually say anything on it at all. And the only reason I'm making another video because of that is because I believe that that is a very important thing that not a lot of people understand nowadays. And so I'm going to share kind of an example of it in my own life. And so to kind of recap, last video was mostly about like the differences between a man's relationship and a female relationship. And when I mentioned personal responsibility, I was talking about the way that kind of the Bible mentions the way that the different relationships between a husband and a wife should be, which is wives should submit to their husbands, and husbands should love their wife like Christ loved the church. If you want a better explanation of that, go see the other video. I'm trying to make this one really quick, possibly even a short if I can. Although I'm already past that, so never mind. But basically, I mentioned very briefly that personal responsibility is part of that, but I didn't say anything about it, which was really stupid of me. And basically, what I wanted to kind of get across is that a husband's duty is to love his wife even when she doesn't submit, and her not submitting is no excuse for not loving her and not doing everything that you can for the betterment of your wife and your relationship with her. And same thing for the wife. The wife should submit even when the husband is not doing everything to actually earn that trust and respect. I mentioned in the video that the things that we do, like loving and submitting, are because the Bible tells us to and not because of the other person or whether or not they deserve it. And I feel like it's not mentioned enough nowadays. And so, in lieu of that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys an example from my own life, which was so for those of you who don't know, I I guess I've never really told you guys my like story. I'll probably make a video about that in the future. But anyway, I basically was not a very good person or husband when we first got together, me and my wife. And I mean, a lot of people would probably say I wasn't even a really good dad. I mean, not people on the outside. I wasn't overtly like negligent or anything, but definitely my mind and my heart weren't in the marriage or the raising of my kids, which are things that I'm obviously not very happy about now. I'm not very proud of it, but it is part of my past, and I try to kind of own it and learn from it because, I mean, that's really all you can do. But part of that was when I started to get back into my prayers, get back into spending time with God. He started talking to me again. And one of the things that he told me was that I needed to start doing more things for my wife to show her that I love her and to show her that I'm dedicated to her. And for a while, I actually had a lot of issue with that because one of the things that probably people don't mention before you get married is that a lot of times when you do things in a relationship, they become expected. To be fair, that's not always the case, but at least at that point in our relationship, it was. And so I had a lot of reluctance to kind of take on extra tasks, such as doing the dishes and the other things that I said, which were like taking care of the kids, putting them to sleep, taking them baths, and stuff like that. Because I had been out at work all day and I had always expected her to do those things. And and so once I started talking to God again, and once He started telling me that, I was very hesitant because I was like, well, if I start doing these things, then she's going to start expecting it. And sure, in the beginning, like I'm going to get extra brownie points and she'll show the appreciation and stuff like that. But if I make this a consistent thing, which is what God was asking me to do, basically, like these are going to be expected. These are just going to be part of every single day. And like I'm not going to get anything from it. I'm basically going to stuck be at the time, this is the way I thought. Like I said, I'm not very proud of the way that I thought about it. But basically, at the time, I was thinking I'm basically going to be stuck with a bunch of extra chores and have nothing to show for it. Because initially she'll feel extra love, but later on she would feel like it's just part of the way it is. This is just stuff that my husband does. And to be fair, and she did she did appreciate it a lot when I first started. I was right, and it did become expected over time. And I've become okay with that because of what God had responded when I said, I don't want to do this because then it's just going to become part of what I do. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of it. And He said, you focus on yourself and I'll work on her. And so basically, it's my responsibility to do the things that I need to do in my relationship, whether or not she recognizes it. Even if I started taking on those extra chores and stuff like that, like say I wash the dishes every single day. I cooked 3 meals a day and I just like prepped before I went to work or and stuff like that so that she would never have to cook again. And I always washed the dishes and I always did everything around the house, and basically she was free to just sit on the couch. And if God has called me to do that and she never recognizes it, that doesn't change the fact that I'm called to do that. And so I guess as Christians, and let me be clear, this is as a Christian man, I do think that it's good for any husband to kind of take on extra responsibility in the relationship to show the woman that he's never going to ask her to do more than he does, which is something else that I mentioned in that other video. But I do think that, especially for Christian men, we need to have we need to understand that we need to emulate what the way that Jesus loved his disciples, and the way that he was all in, and the way that never he never did anything for them counting the cost of what it would cost him. So when I do the dishes for her, I shouldn't be thinking about, oh, is she gonna appreciate it? Is she gonna say thank you? Is she gonna do anything for me afterwards to kind of repay me for it? Because if you're doing it like that, then you're still not loving your wife the way that Christ loved the church. The disciples couldn't give anything back to Jesus to repay him for the things that he's done and the things that he would do for them. And Jesus understood that, and he didn't expect anything back, except for their loyalty. And so, with that being said, us as men of Christ need to remember that whether or not our wives act the way that we want them to, and whether or not we feel like we're getting a good or bad deal in our relationships, we have responsibilities. And those responsibilities are to treat our wife the way that Jesus treated his disciples, and to love our wives the way that Christ loved the church. And to do that for our wife, to be a witness to her, basically. And while you work on yourself, God will work on her. But even if she never changes, we still have that responsibility. And that is our responsibility, whether or not she changes and whether or not she ever reciprocates. That doesn't matter. And personal responsibility as a man of Christ means that we need to do that no matter what. And especially if you have kids. I personally have 3, and that adds an extra weight to it, which is basically that whether or not she ever reciprocates, I need to show them what a husband and a father should do. Even like, and to let me be completely clear, I don't want anyone to think that my wife is not great. My wife is amazing. She's the best woman I could ever ask for. So let me be clear about that before this video makes it seem like I have this terrible wife. What I'm saying is, if she didn't reciprocate all those things, and if she wasn't appreciative of me, and if she even was just a complete jerk to me constantly, I still have a responsibility to show them as well what a man of Christ does, and what a husband of Christ, or a Christian husband does, and what a Christian father should do. And that means that I need to love my wife unconditionally. And unconditional love does mean even when they don't love you back. And even when they don't reciprocate. That doesn't mean that you force yourself on them, but that does mean that you extend that love and that visual and tangible representation of that love, whether or not they reciprocate it. It doesn't matter. Um, just that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they do. A lot of times I tell my kids that all the time, and that's actually another thing that God used to kind of humble me and really speak to me, which was one of the times that they were getting into a fight about stupid kid stuff. Basically, I told my daughter, like, you do what you need to do and don't worry about what he's doing. And then, I mean, I was called back to what God had told me, which was like, it doesn't matter what my wife's doing and it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. I have responsibilities and I need to focus on myself because I am the only person that I can control. And I mean, I could try to influence other people, but in the end, I'm the only one that I can control, and they're the only people that they can control, or that can control them. And so I can't change anybody else. All I can change is what I do and how I do it. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles now, so I'll probably end it. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of expand on that idea because I do feel like it is important. And yeah, have a great day. I want to start putting this at the end of videos. If there's anything in the video that you don't agree with, or if there's any questions about anything in the Bible or anything that I say that you have, please put it down in the comments. If I ever do get past any sort of number, if I basically get a community on this channel, which honestly I don't expect to, I mean, who would want to hear me talk? But if I ever do, I would like to start doing videos that are basically based around questions that people ask me. So, yeah, but I'm gonna do that if I ever get people watching this channel. Like I said, highly doubt it's gonna happen, but I'm still gonna try. Anyway, God bless.